So AEW All In is upon us. It is just within about 2 weeks away from happening, and one of the big matches on the card is for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. Swerve Strickland will meet Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, one of my favorite wrestlers. And I'm going to talk about this. I don't know what iteration of the AEW All-In pay-per-view lineup we are seeing right now. I don't know if this is lineup number 12 or lineup number 2 or even lineup number 1, but you have definitely seen them shuffle the deck a little bit and move things around. A lot of people were wondering why we're not getting Swerve Strickland against Hangman Adam Page, and it is pretty obvious, to me at least, that we're probably saving that for All Out, right? All Out is 2 weeks or a week or something like that. I think it's like 2 weeks now. Before it was a week. So now it's going to be 2 weeks from AEW All In, and it makes a lot of sense for them to do that. So if they are planning that, if they are planning on another match in the series between Page and Strickland, then what's going to happen in the main event? Bryan Danielson against Swerve Strickland. Bryan Danielson is putting his career on the line. We are being told that basically Bryan Danielson has retired a long time ago, that his contract as a wrestler has expired, that he's going to continue wrestling against Swerve, and that he's basically being coaxed and cheered and pushed and shoved by some legends and AEW faithful into getting in the ring and winning the match at All In. But is he gonna win the match at All In? And that's what I want to talk about. So, being a big fan of Bryan Danielson, he has always played the underdog, and he has done a really good job at that, at least on the big time scene. Back in the olden days, he kind of reminded me of like Bob Backlund. He was like a throwback. The way that he wrestled in the ring for some companies like PPW, TWA, Ring of Honor, ECWA. He exuded this type of like throwback wrestling personality. He was a little bland. He would say to the referee, "I've got till 5, referee." And he was wrestling these exciting characters like Loki, like Christopher Daniels, like Homicide. I'm forgetting somebody. I know that I'm forgetting somebody. He used to have some great matches. Samoa Joe, Takeshi Morishima. Like, he had some great matches there. But the one thing about Bryan Danielson is that he did all of his talking essentially in the ring. When he went to the WWE, he needed to accentuate his personality a little bit. And I would argue in 2014 or around that time that he was basically carrying the WWE for all intents and purposes. I mean, he really was. It was the WrestleMania where he went through the entire legacy, where the buildup that started at SummerSlam, where Randy Orton came in and cashed in his Money in the Bank and beat him thanks to Triple H turning on him. And then it was kind of like the system against Daniel Bryan. Rewatched an entire universe of wrestling fans push the WWE to change their plans and put Daniel Bryan in the main event at WrestleMania. Not only that, but they built WrestleMania around him. The crowd was chanting yes. And when it looked like they weren't going to Daniel Bryan, they said no, emphatically. So he had this way of being the underdog that the fans cheered for. And it seems like in AEW currently that they are trying to do a rekindling of that in a way. The whole crowd isn't chanting yes, but they're definitely getting behind the idea of him winning the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. If you go back and watch a couple of my old videos where I talked about this, I believe for the history and the lineage of the AEW World Championship that it needs a Bryan Danielson on it. And I am so shocked that I'm able to distinguish between Daniel Bryan and Bryan Danielson in this video in one take. You guys gotta give me props for that because it's so hard. But Bryan Danielson being cheered and as the World Heavyweight Champion in AEW is perfect for their legacy. This is the type of guy that you want in your pantheon, in your history books, a part of your lineage. You've already got guys like CM Punk, Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega. You've got a history of guys that have John Moxley, guys that have long-standing with the crowd and also that have a legacy. And that's what you want when you have Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson, a part of this, is gotta happen. But are we ready to see the end of Swerve Strickland? And then if Swerve Strickland loses at All In, then he goes in and just beats Hangman Adam Page at All Out? These are the questions that I'm hoping that Tony Khan and his creative team are going over in meetings and talking about, because that is what is going to be needed when you're trying to reestablish success and momentum in AEW, which has been kind of stagnant, a little stale, if you will, a lot of less crowd response and interaction than before. They've had to deal with a whole rain of shit that they've had to deal with lately, so I don't blame them. But if you're trying to right the ship and change things where wrestling moves perpetually and there's really no off days, then you really got to shift gear and momentum and conversation by planning ahead. And it's hard to plan ahead when some people get injured and some things happen. I totally get that, because for a while I thought we were going to see MJF against Daniel Garcia. Apparently that's off the table, and we're going back with MJF and Will Ospreay. Cool, things happen. Thought we were probably going to see the Lucha Brothers being involved in the tag team title situation. That's not happening. So now we got Acclaimed and FTR, but they're battling, and I don't know who we're supposed to cheer for. The Acclaimed, they're acting like assholes. Sometimes the FTR, they're acting like assholes, but their ultimate goal is to go in and wrestle the Young Bucks, who are assholes. So the crowd, as I'm wondering, who am I going to get emotionally invested in? Or am I just waiting for Max Caster to throw Anthony Bowens through a pane glass window and call himself Sexy Boy? I don't understand what I'm supposed to do here, but I understand that they're shifting these things around, changing these roles, and trying to move and pivot for the future. So if they're trying to do that, then where does the future lie if Bryan Danielson wins the AEW World Heavyweight Championship? For a while, I thought the best match for him at All In would be against a returning Nigel McGuinness, who's looking in the best shape he's ever looked, and giving the fans that match. But apparently they had other plans. Swerve Strickland against Hangman Adam Page at All In. That would be a good match for Wembley, considering the history. Seems like we're going to move the goalposts and get that at All Out. So does that match make sense, and does it need to happen? Does it need to have the AEW World Heavyweight Championship involved in it to really mean something? My answer to that is no. But who are you going to put in the ring against Bryan Danielson? You are obviously going to have to stack the deck and make things a hell of a lot harder for him. So do you bring back a returning Jon Moxley? I can see that. Do you bring in, I don't understand. I understand he's got a real bad history, but I've done a couple of videos on this guy, and I think low-key needs at least one run in AEW and a match with Bryan Danielson for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. It just would tie a lot of things together for the Tony Khan fan of Ring of Honor. For me, you get that match that, really established Ring of Honor and put it on the map. The differing of styles between those two guys. I have heard a lot of things about Loki and a lot of things about him backstage and his belief system and everything like that, but I'm sure that cooler heads can prevail. He is older now. I'm sure wiser and a lot more chill about those things, and bringing him in to wrestle Bryan Danielson for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship would be a great moment, especially in the annals of the history of Ring of Honor coming together with All Elite Wrestling. So that's just my take on that, but that's just a one-off match. The program that Bryan Danielson needs if he wins the AEW World Heavyweight Championship is that with Will Ospreay. It's right there. MJF is another one that you would want to consider, but if you really want to do a passing of the torch, then you do that one more match between Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay, and Will Ospreay ends the reign of Bryan Danielson and is crowned not only the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, but the new top guy in AEW. And a win over Bryan Danielson would solidify that. Now, a lot of people would probably say that Bryan Danielson's legacy has kind of been sullied. He's lost a ton of matches in AEW. I don't know what that means in the grand scheme of things, though. He is still the American Dragon. He is still the yes man, pun intended, and he still has a lot of a crowd participation and favoritism on his side. So a win over Bryan Danielson followed by a handshake and Bryan Danielson basically passing the torch to him and maybe leaving his boots in the ring could be a huge moment for Will Ospreay. That could be something that they would want to entertain, especially going into Wrestle Dream. I don't know where they want to actually have a match like that, but I can definitely see that being something that they would want to pull the trigger on going forward. So if you ask me, I'm not doing my predictions for the whole pay-per-view yet, and I'm very fluid in my thoughts, so things could change. I will say that I think Bryan Danielson needs this win over Swerve Strickland to establish the legacy of the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. There's a lot of great names on that, and him being added to the name only puts the AEW World Heavyweight Championship on a different level at that point. So I think he should win. At that point, I think Swerve should go into demon mode, and I think he should get way more sick than he's been, and maybe even ditch Prince Nana. And yes, I'm saying it that way on purpose, guys. I know his name is Prince Nana, okay? There's so many comments where they're like, oh, Eastern European dude saying Nana wrong. First of all, I'm not Eastern European, guys. Look at my shorts. Go look at the short videos, even if you just hear my voice. I know my voice sounds crazy, but go look at my shorts. I'm not just Eastern European. I'm over half of something else. But anyways, yes, I say it that way because I used to rap and stuff, and I would say Nana all the time, okay? You get it? Prince Nana. That's right, and I say it that way. Whatever. It doesn't even need an explanation. But yeah, he should turn on Prince Nana and then go super demon mode and go super bad guy on us. And I like Swerve that way, and I think that it would really establish him well. And two-time AEW World Heavyweight Champion Swerve Strickland, not only being the first African-American AEW World Heavyweight Champion, but the first two-time AEW African-American World Heavyweight Champion, I think would be a good title for him as well. See a lot for Swerve Strickland. He's got a lot ahead of him. He's still a young guy, and a loss against Bryan Danielson at Wembley Stadium is not going to be the end of the world for him. But I still hold hope that in a year's time in Wembley, we get Nigel McGuinness against Bryan Danielson. And I heard that Takeshi Morishima has cancer and had battled cancer, but I would have loved to see him come in and have a return match with Bryan Danielson as well. But hopefully they do it with Loki. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments if you think Bryan Danielson is going to walk away at Wembley Stadium, the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, if he deserves to win, or if they should give that match to Swerve Strickland. And if you think that Swerve Strickland's going to defend his championship against Hangman Adam Page the next week at All Out. Thumbs up on the way out, you guys. Make sure that you continue dropping comments and keeping our community growing, because it gets the engagement going, and we can grow our community, and you'll get more videos from all different sides of professional wrestling from me going forward if we keep our participation up. So make sure that you hit the comments and thumbs up on the way out, you guys. Thank you again for all of you for participating and being a part of this community, because I couldn't have done it without you guys. This is Rob the Wrestling Old Head, and as always, you guys, stay tuned for more.